Hello everyone, Grim here. As you can tell, it's time for another narration. This one is titled, I Work as a Zookeeper for the Amarillo Zoo, and I Know What That Creature Is. Written by the user, anonamazookeeper. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's go. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you've all seen the photos on the news over the last week. Before we get started, I'm writing this on a burner account for anonymity's sake. I could get into some real trouble for doing this, since I'm revealing shit that only zoo management really knows. Before we get hired, most of us sign a DNA. It's the standard stuff, but it means if anyone finds out who wrote this, I could be in some serious legal trouble. I attempted to post this on 4chan, but the asshats over there largely ignored it. Or told me I was a fucking liar. Maybe you guys will hear me out though. Even if you don't, I need to get this out of my mind. So, about that photo. It's a photo from security camera footage at the zoo. As y'all probably already know, CETA finally released that to the public on Twitter. Because long story short, they're scared shitless. We all are. I never believed in supernatural shit or cryptozoology, seeing as I've been working with and studying real animals for most of my life. But I don't have words for what we've experienced lately. I'm genuinely incapable of explaining it. Science doesn't touch shit like this, and I'm at a loss to explain it beyond the conclusions we've all come to, which I'll explain later on. All of this started about 2 months ago or so, back in April. I was with a few other zookeepers doing the usual routine, cleaning up pens, feeding the animals, and whatnot. It was somewhat late at night after closing time, about 11 p.m. or so. I'm filling the feed in the exotic bird area when I noticed 2 or 3 parrots were dead. This was obviously concerning to us, as we all care a lot about the animals we care for. We aren't exactly flushed with cash at Amarillo Zoo. Although popular, it doesn't make a lot of money. Losing critters out of nowhere can be a real blow to revenue, since it can cost a lot to replace the animal. Anyway, we're getting off track. Point is, bird's dead. Out of nowhere, might I add. It was only a few, sure, but if they keep dropping like that, it would be bad news. So, I let the other zookeepers know about it, and we decided to search the cage. Perhaps some snot-nosed kid had fed the birds something poisonous, or maybe there was an illness or virus spreading among the birds. This was nothing too big, so we let the management know about it the next day. They largely shrugged it off. We sent the carcasses off to the vet to get them tested anyways, to see what had killed them. Well, the test the vet's office did turned nothing back. Like, at all. No poisons, no evidence of illness, not so much as a feather out of place. They had just dropped dead. It was weird, but we sort of forgot about it. A few weeks later, we found more animals dead. We found 3 goats, largely in the same manner as the birds. We got them tested too, because clearly this is not something random. Management catches wind of this, so we start beefing up security, keeping an eye on visitors. We start making more announcements, not to feed the animals, etc. You guys might not know this, but zookeepers have a pretty demanding schedule. It can vary depending by zoo, but many of us sleep in bunks at the zoo, so we can take care of the animals 24/7. You know, in case a lion or chimp break out, and we all need to make another Harambe meme, which was tragic by the way. We tend to rotate schedules, so each of us gets a chance to sleep at home a few times a week. So, in addition to the other stuff, we start taking turns watching the security footage at night. The deaths don't stop happening though, and we ain't seeing shit at night. In early May, we noticed a few of the sheep in our petting zoo section missing. They just straight up vanished. It was very frustrating by this point. We started getting the police involved. We call them up and we tell them what's been happening. They say they'll leave an officer around along with their security to watch things at night until the weird stuff stops happening. We zookeepers start really watching our security cameras too. Whatever was happening, it was probably some crafty creep who got a kick out of killing animals for fun. Me and my colleagues are getting pissed too. The animals were clearly stressed, and a few of them stopped eating regularly. We hated the thought of someone trying to hurt these innocent animals for fun. Well, then the really scary stuff starts happening. We get up in the morning to find the sheep that were missing, or what was left of them. Their skins were all we found, strewn about the sidewalk near the zoo's entrance. We knew it was our sheep because the ID tags were included with the fur. Police say they didn't see anything the night before. Security says the same thing. We're all baffled. We managed to get it all cleared up before the zoo opened. We decided to keep the strange happenings under wraps so not to alert the fucker doing this. We don't want them knowing we're onto it. A full day passes that incident. We had a normal day the next day too. When at night, I hear a bunch of shouting. It was around 2 a.m. and the security guard is running for his life. He's shouting for the cops and shaking all over. Says he saw something climbing over the wall to the lion exhibit. Says it was covered in fur. The police haven't shown where it is, and when we all get there, there's nothing. We checked the security footage and all we managed to capture is some movement in the darkness of the lion's area. Security guard is crying and shit, saying it was a werewolf. We laughed him out of the room. Keeps insisting it was a werewolf, like something out of a Harry Potter, he says. We laugh at him. We're sure at this point it's probably some coyote or some shit and managed to find its way into the zoo at night. The sheepskin was weird, but maybe the thing had been eating the carcass nearby the wooded areas nearby the zoo. Called it Thompson Memorial Park. It's small, but it could hide a coyote or two. The shit doesn't stop though. We start finding organs in the enclosures, just out of nowhere. And they weren't random. Intestines in the shape of a heart on the floor of the porcupine exhibit. 2 sheep eyeballs in the holes of the wooden fences. We had been watching the cameras, and we couldn't really see anything except for quick flashes of white from time to time. The animals were still acting strange. Normally friendly animals suddenly stayed in their sleeping areas, even when fed. We were really freaked out at this point, and the police started sending more officers to patrol the zoo at night. It all accumulated on the 21st of May. It was 3 a.m., usual night, it was quiet out. And I was watching the cameras with the security guards. We were looking at one of the outside camera areas when we fucking noticed it. The photo above captures exactly what we saw. I shit a fucking brick when I saw it. At first, kinda reminded me of that coyote asshole who'd been walking around during the 2021 Capitol riots. Some guy wearing a coyote pelt on the body. But it wasn't right. Its limbs were strangely animalistic, yet strangely human. Not only that, but I don't know if any of you have noticed, it's holding something like a stick. It was doing this weird freeze and jerk motion. It would place, then freeze. It would stay perfectly still. Then it would jitter about and start pacing again. We phone the police, obviously, and say that there's an intruder by the fence, that it might be our guy. Well, 3 or 4 of the officers go right towards the fence. I'm out there since I want to see the sick fucker get arrested. The police decide to split up and they point their guns at it. They start yelling at it to stop right where it is and not to move. And that it was under arrest. Things starts heaving. The security footage uses night vision, so it may seem like we could see it easily, but in real life it was pitch black out. They get their flashlights out and point it at this thing. It's the scariest shit I've ever seen in my life. Eyes totally devoid of color, just milky white. like some kind of demon. Sharp-ass teeth. I began to wonder if the security guy was right after all. Maybe it was some sort of werewolf, but I've had time to think about it, and the moon wasn't full that day. It sounds fucking childish and dumb, but when you've seen something so unexplainable, you start reaching for straws trying to figure it out. So the thing is making this jittery movement, and it starts to sound like there's rattling. Sort of like when you hear sprinklers go off in your yard. The thing is furry as hell, and the police start yelling louder because it's moving towards the officers on the other side of the fence. It starts screaming, and it was the most god-awful sound, like boiling a puppy alive. The officers are terrified, like we all were, and they start shooting at it. I've never seen anything like it. Thinking about it now makes me want to cry. It took 5 shots, dead center in the chest, and to the fucking head, and didn't even flinch. The officers see this and shoot at it more, but it just takes it without so much as a flinch. Still screaming, but louder now. It suddenly moves lightning fast and it's on the other side of the fence. I gasped and started running. I could hear its screams and the rattling. Officers realizing their guns were fucking useless against the thing, they start backing away. We all start booking it back to the zookeeper's bunker. We sat in that room and the officers called for backup. Meanwhile, the thing was jerking its way around the enclosure and making its way around the zoo. We waited in the security camera room, watching the security cameras and waiting for the other police to come. We watched as this thing walked into the zoo like nothing happened, jittering around in its weird fucking way. We can hear it screaming to some extent still. Suddenly, we watch as the thing vanishes. Can't really describe it. It was there, then it suddenly wasn't. The backup arrives, and they search the park. Officers take our stories, they find nothing in the zoo. We check the footage again. We have it on camera. We don't have any good footage of it inside the zoo. The footage outside the fence is crystal clear. We are all freaked out. I didn't sleep a wink that night. We started debating about what it was to pass the time. It's all we can talk about when we get to work. We wonder if it was a werewolf. Agree that a werewolf is a bad explanation. We start wondering if it's an alien or demon or some shit. One of our colleagues, though, says he knows exactly what it is. Says he heard stories about things like it when he was growing up in Arizona. He mentions what he thinks it is, and I realize I've actually heard of the thing before, too. Given everything we've seen, it makes a lot of sense and matches up with everything. I'm not gonna say what it is here. If the legends I've heard are true, and I believe they are 100% true now, it's a bad mojo to even talk about it. It's some dark and evil shit that the Navajo take fucking seriously. If you still can't figure out what I'm talking about by now, Google Navajo and scary stories. That should bring up all you need to know. All I need to know is that one of those is stalking the zoo. The footage is remarkable. Made it to the mayor's office. It had the whole police department totally stunned. It has had the entire city spooked. They have been trying to look at that footage over and over again, trying to come up with a rational explanation. They can't. That's why the city of Amarillo tweeted out the footage. A lot of people have taken this all as a joke, but I assure you, none of us are laughing. We are fucking terrified. The whole world knows now. The only good news about all of it is the weird shit has stopped happening. We still hear rattling at night when we're walking around the zoo. You might have noticed the zoo put up a statement saying no animals have died. It's technically true. But only because we had listed the earlier deaths as natural. That was before we realized they weren't. I'm typing all of this right now, so very little sleep. I haven't been able to sleep well since I've seen that thing's eyes. I finally had a day or two off zoo duty, so I'm at home typing this. I'm using a VPN, so hopefully no one can trace this post back to me. But maybe I suppose I shouldn't mind getting fired. Truth is, at this point, I'm not sure I want to go back. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more videos. Have a good night.